Rob, what is our fifth main topic today?
Well, Rizzo Gaming says a story broke Friday evening that was first reported by the Wall Street Journal and then reported by numerous other outlets that the Russo brothers were in negotiations to once again direct a movie for the MCU, but with the main headline being that talks have seemingly stopped because of what is currently going on with the ScarJo versus Disney situation. They're now concerned about how their movie will be released and how they will be paid. What are your thoughts about all this new information? Well, again, this is something that was going to come up. Anyone that's paying attention, you have to ask yourself that same question. You know, the Russos made 4 movies with 4, right? They did Civil War. They did
Winter Soldier.
They
War.
did 4 movies. All of them had Scarlett Johansson in it. You know, and I'm sure she was the cornerstone. She brought the emotion. The Russo brothers really showcased her talents, gave her a lot of great stuff to do. The scene in Endgame was, I shed a tear. And I'm sure over 4 movies, you know, you really, as directors, create relationships with their talent. You know, this is a caring relationship. You want your talent to be taken care of, because the more the talent is taken care of, the better they do for you. And I think that the Russo brothers, it had to be pretty shocking if you look at the box office results of those 4 movies that they directed with her in it, not to mention the other movies that she did, like the voice that she did for Jungle Book, like 9 movies with Disney, and she's treated this way. And it's not like she was asking for something exorbitant. She was asking for what she was contractually obligated to get. This is what has to be remembered. Now, I know, look, you can talk about, well, she made $20 million. I don't care how much she made. It's what did she contractually sign up for? And she wasn't getting it. And they didn't play ball with her. And the Russo brothers are like, well, if you're not going to play ball with Scarlett Johansson, why are you going to play ball with us? We can't trust you. Even after the 4 movies we made, let's clock that box office, Disney. What assurances do you have? I don't blame them. The Wall Street Journal says, since the lawsuit, brothers Joe Russo and Anthony Russo, directors of Marvel's Avengers Endgame, the highest grossing movie of all time, hit an impasse in negotiations to direct another Marvel movie. The Johansson dispute left them unsure how their next movie would be distributed and how they would be paid, according to people familiar with the matter. The Russos declined to comment. Smart on them. I think they're not wrong, John. I mean, the question was, yeah, Scarlett Johansson signed a deal. If we sign a deal, what assurance that Empire Strikes Back, like, you don't hear Darth Vader's voice saying, pray I alter it. I don't alter it any further. What do you think?
I'm going to sound like a broken record player today. This is, again, another repercussion of the failed leadership of Bob Chapek. And again, I say this as a guy who I'm cheering for Bob Chapek to succeed. I am cheering for Bob Chapek to come into his own. I'm cheering for Bob Chapek to lead Disney into great success. But all I have seen from this guy is failure after failure. You know, somebody in the live chat a little bit earlier, Rob, as we were talking about Bob Chapek refusing to negotiate a deal when he was face to face with the head of CEAA. And somebody wrote in the live chat, I took note of it, said, well, he's the CEO. He's got people to do that. You know who never thought it was beneath him to deal directly with talent when the need was there? Bob Iger. Bob Iger never thought it was beneath him to, hey, if there's a brewing problem that can cause problems for the whole company, I'm going to put on the Bob Iger pants. And I'm going to step in and I'm going to deal with this. And that is why all the talent and all the creatives and all the directors and all the producers loved Bob Iger, because he was willing to get in there. And what has been the repercussion of Bob Chapek not having big boy pants and not taking on the responsibility and not being a leader? What has happened? We've got this massive, embarrassing public falling out between one of the OG Avengers and the company that's embarrassing the hell out of them. But now, more than that, Rob, it is now spread out to now affecting two of the most stalwart, recognizable guys identified with the MCU in the Russo brothers. And now we've got the Wall Street Journal saying, yeah, the Russo brothers were in discussions with Marvel for their return. And now they're not so sure they want to. Now the negotiations have stalled. And why have they stalled? Let's bring that thing up again here, right? It says, they've reached an impasse in the negotiations to direct another Marvel movie. The Johansson dispute left them unsure about how the next movie would be distributed. Because, Rob, we saw in that comment, in that quote from the Wall Street Journal, that Marvel wrote to Scarlett Johansson and her representation and said, it's 100%. This thing, we are doing a full traditional wide theatrical release with this film. And if we don't, and the Russo brothers are now looking at that and seeing that they didn't make a deal with her to compensate her for all that kind of stuff. And they're dragging her name through the mud. That's the other thing, that the Russos are sitting back and saying, not only did you guys try to screw over Scarlett Johansson, you then publicly try to shame her for getting what you guys agreed to give her.
Right.
And the Russo brothers now are sitting there and like, why should we trust you, Bob Chapek? Why should we trust you that you are going to act fair and you are going to keep your word and your company is going to keep your promises with us? What assurances do we have now? Guess what? Under Bob Iger, we had a decade-long track record of being able to trust the word of Bob Iger. If Bob Iger says that we're going to get this, we know we're going to get that. If Bob Iger says we're going to handle it this way, we know we're going to handle it that way. And hey, if our plans have to change, we'll make sure we treat you fairly and compensate you. With Bob Iger, they know they got all that. With Bob Chapek, you've got the most successful directors under the MCU have ever had, putting out Infinity War, Endgame. Some people think, Winter Soldier might be the greatest comic book movie ever made. Some people think maybe Civil War might be the greatest comic book movie ever made. You got these guys now looking at Marvel. And by the way, Rob, let's call a spade a spade. It ain't like the Russo brothers have been able to replicate that success outside of the MCU.
Nope.
And I say that as somebody with a lot of love for the Russos in my heart. I love these guys. But they have not been able to replicate the kind of success they had in the MCU outside of the MCU. But even then, they're looking at the situation. They're thinking, do we want to get back into this right now? Rob, this is having direct, tangible, practical impact on now even the people who want to work with you anymore. And if Marvel can't, I'm not saying Marvel needs to get the Russo brothers back. I'm not saying that at all. But if they wanted them back, it should be no problem to get on the phone and say, hey, we want the Russos back. And the Russos say, hey, man, we've had the best success of our career with you guys. Absolutely back. The fact that it is now a struggle to get the Russo brothers back, I think speaks volumes about the state of where this company is at right now. And again, I say that I'm cheering for Bob Chapek. I want him to succeed. I cheer for Disney. I like Disney very much. But the way they have effed this up is un-effing believable. I don't know, Rob. You're taking a look at this. What does it say about... Because, Rob, is it fair to say 2 years ago, it is simply unfathomable that Bob Iger couldn't have a good relationship with all the talent and everything working with him. It is unfathomable 2 years ago that under Bob Iger, you'd be hearing about directors not wanting to come and work with you. You'd hear about your OG stars having public disputes with you. You'd hear about, under Bob Iger, that is unfathomable. What does it say about the state they're in right now that guys like the Russo brothers, who are, in Vin Diesel's words, family with the MCU, they're struggling? What does that say about the state of things right now?
Well, there's always growing pains when things change. And I think, Bob Iger is a guy, if you read his book and you look at his background and where he came from, he's just a very different kind of a person than Bob Chapek. Bob Chapek is a man who is a company man through and through. And when you get to the level that he has risen to, you can't be a company man. And I'm not convinced Bob Chapek has a skill set that will allow him to do what needs to be done when you're running the head of a company like Disney. You can't be simply a corporate person. There's got to be times when you break free and you make decisions. It's like being in command. When you're in command of, say, a starship, you can't just make decisions based on a committee and the problem is corporate culture itself breeds fear and insecurity because one bad decision can be your last. And you're beholden to the shareholders, and it's tough if all you've ever done has been part of corporate culture. Acting as an individual is not something that it comes easy or natural to people that are in a corporate environment. So I don't know if he's got the skill set needed to run a company like Disney, because these kinds of things are the kind of things that the heads of companies step in and fix before they become problems. And they're fixed quietly. They're not fixed publicly, and no one ever knows about them. And the fact that these things happen is not good. It's not good for anybody. So,
yeah. Again, I'll keep cheering. I mean, I'll keep cheering and hoping that these will all be learning opportunities to say, wow, I really screwed that up. Mental note to self: don't handle the next situation like that the way I handled that one. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. I have certainly made stupid mistakes, and then I learn from them, and hopefully I don't repeat the mistakes. Hopefully that'll be the same for Bob Chapek. Right now, though, I just look at that, and I think this guy is not suitable for this job. But he's got the job, so I'm just going to hope he figures it out. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? That the Russo, number one, it's exciting to hear that the Russos were in negotiations to come back and do another MCU movie. But those negotiations have stalled because of the way they handled the Scarlett Johansson situation. How are you guys thinking about this? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.